I realized that I probably felt the way I did last night because I had a lot of protein before I went to bed. There could be a couple different explanations for why that affected me the way that it did. One of them is that when you eat protein, there's so many amino acids in it that they all compete for uptake to be converted into other things and transported across the blood-brain barrier, stuff like that. So if you're not getting enough carbohydrates and a lot of protein, your body isn't absorbing as much tryptophan, so it's not converting it into 5-HTP, serotonin, melatonin, and that'll affect your mood. And this has happened to me before, so it was only a matter of time until I realized that I knew what caused it. Another possible thing is protein oxidation, and a part of the brain that's associated with bipolar disorder. And I don't know if it's one of these things or both of them in concert, but I just wanted to say that I figured that out. So there's an explanation for why my mood was so detached and disconnected, and why I wasn't able to empathize with myself, as I put it. And something else I was thinking about is that what's next for me, some people would say I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to see if I can write down some ideas for a hypothesis or hypotheses that I can eventually test. And I don't know if I'm going to go into a research field or bioscience technology field yet. I don't know what's going to feel like the right way for me to go until, actually into that, going in that direction. But in the meantime, I can think about possible things I want to test. For example, is it the folic acid that wheat and grains and cereals and things are fortified with that's causing problems for people with the MTHFR gene variant, in which they're not metabolizing the folic acid and it builds up and it could be causing problems. So that's one aspect that I'd want to research, look into, and possibly, if I ever had the means, design an experiment and just see what I can learn about that. Another thing is grains. Are we preparing them correctly? Are we soaking them and preparing them correctly before we eat them? Because if we're not, the phytic acid will bind to other nutrients in the body, and then you'll have a deficiency state. Another thing is grains and other foods tend to be high in omega-6 essential fatty acids, and a lot of people have the ratio of omega-6 essential fatty acids to omega-3 essential fatty acids is really off. It's inordinately imbalanced. So it's another thing that I would need to find out is there one factor of grains, or are there several factors of grains that could be causing these problems? Additionally, is their body not making enough of the enzyme to break down the disulfide bonds in glutinins, gluten, gliadin, prolamines, prolines, that kind of thing. So there could be several reasons why a body would not react favorably to grains, and you can test these variables alone and in concert and really discover some things if you set up your experiment right. And it's just something on my mind, and I'm probably forgetting another thing I was going to mention. Oh, and I'm saying all of this because it was starting a gluten-free diet and slowly adjusting to it, and it took like I did the most major changes in the first year, obviously, and then excluded a little bit more in the second year. Just as time went on, excluded more and more things, because I thought, I must still be sick because I haven't completely excluded gluten from my diet, but I didn't realize that there were other things causing me problems. Like, I knew that tomatoes made me really sick, but I hadn't figured out yet why. And now I know it's because they're high in fructose and high in histamine. And I didn't figure out why, onions and garlic were causing me problems, and not only do they have fructans in them, similar to wheat has fructans in it, which are long chains of fructose. That's another thing I need to test. Does that cause a problem in these people who can't tolerate grains? It's just interesting that just excluding, wheat, primarily wheat, but with the goal of getting gluten out of my diet, the hallucinations stopped. So that's the big question. Was it really the grains, or was it what's in the grains combined with the fact that we fortify it with folic acid? Was that really, what's the word, the fulcrum? Is that really anyway, so I'm putting these ideas, recording them, because I don't really mind if anybody else knows what I'm thinking about, and if they take my ideas and run with it, good for them, because it always annoyed me reading about Watson and Crick discovering DNA, and there was a woman who was working with, she was taking photographs of DNA, essentially, with some special equipment, and she was keeping her work private. She wasn't sharing it with Watson and Crick. And if they just worked together, I think all three of them would have figured it out sooner than they did, and maybe they could have all taken credit instead of it just being Watson and Crick, the discoverers of the helical structure of DNA. So, anyway, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine, and I'll probably, once I have some carbohydrates in my system, be able to connect again with, what I was feeling, what I was going through at the time. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. I just want to let you know that. And hey, it's the weekend. Welcome to Sunday morning. And I woke up laying in bed. I was laying in bed because I'm a little bit sore from taking the methylfolate. Then I heard my eldest grandniece sing progressively louder and louder. That's how you know. That's how you know. That's how you know. She just kept getting louder and louder. So she was watching or listening to the song from Enchanted. And then I was like, okay, I'm sore, but I'm going to get out of bed now. The whole house is awake. Might as well. Okay. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.
I finally see